Hey VC, Brian here, Fitz from Fitz's Electric Bar. Thank you for joining, and if you have the inclination, please subscribe and like down below. Much appreciated. You know how the algorithms love that, those people in the back room called the algos. I've got my 10 singles here for this week, singles going steady. So one of my things I predict is that when I grab 10 singles, and I'm just doing it as they are all sitting on my shelf. I'm grabbing them randomly in order of where they're all lined up, but not looking at them until I pull them out. That I'm going to have an Elvis Costello, minimum one Elvis Costello single in every group of 10. I've got so many Elvis Costello singles. Indeed, it happened again off of Almost Blue, Sweet Dreams. And on the flip side, a live version of Psycho, which is just great. I don't know who originally recorded this, but it's quite the song. The lyrics, "You think I'm psycho, don't you, mama?" And it basically describes getting into the head of a killer, a psycho killer, as it were. Elvis Costello, Sweet Dreams is the A side. Stranglers. I've often mentioned this was a band that got me into punk. That was the first kind of like punk record that I really listened to was Radis Norvegicus. This particular single got their cover version of White Room, as well as Straighten Out, which is a great tune. And on the B side, so this is a fully fledged EP. On the B side, Do the European and Choosy Susie. Stranglers. Don't have much to say about these guys, Leopards. I think they did that quirky cover version of Money, which I didn't particularly like. I'm not quite sure why I got this record, but it's sitting in my collection, so I must have. Leopards. Wah and Wah Heat was another band in the 80s or 70s and 80s. So Pete Wiley, I believe he collaborated or in the early days was working with Ian McCulloch and Echo and the Bunnymen in some fashion, maybe Julian Cope. For some reason I have this memory of Julian Cope, Ian McCulloch, and Pete Wiley all kind of part of the Liverpudlian punk, post-punk scene. But this had the single, this is the single 7 Minutes to Midnight, which is a good rock and roll song. Look at that. Another Elvis Costello, You Little Fool, off of Imperial Bedroom. Stomping Ground, and what's the other one? Big Sister. This is off of The Clash, first record, so Remote Control and London's Burning. And it's got a live version in mono of London's Burning on here. The Clash. I would collect Joy Division singles as they came out. 7 inches and 12 inches, got lots of great 12 inches. So this is the original 7-inch Level Terrace Apart. Flip Side These Days, which is also a fabulous song. Often with singles, as most of you know, there would be an outtake or an album or a song that wasn't actually released on any other fashion on the album, and I think These Days wasn't originally on Unknown Pleasures or Closer. So Walking on Thin Ice for John. This one, if you don't know, there's a letter there from Yoko. So the Yoko's note here in January of 81, John Lennon, of course, dying in December of 1980. But this particular track, I'm just going to read what it says. I had to refresh my memory on this. So Walking on Thin Ice is a song by Yoko Ono, released in 81. She and John Lennon concluded the recording of the song on December 8th, 1980. It was upon their return from the recording studio to the Dakota, their home in New York City, that Lennon was murdered by Mark David Chapman. Lennon was clutching a tape of a final mix of this song before it was mastered when he was shot. So it's a bit macabre, but it's a really good song. And I also want to just kind of read, because this takes me back to just how powerful and sad that time was. In fact, for me, Christmas has always got a little bit of a, I'm always reminded of Lennon's assassination and going to some of the tribute things in Toronto for John Lennon. But this is what Yoko wrote, and I find this really quite moving. It's called Finishing Note. John and I were gloriously happy in the first week of December. Double Fantasy was in the top 10. It was just a matter of time for it to go up to number 1 since we still had 2 weeks to Xmas and it was selling well. We kept saying, we did it, and hugged each other. What are we going to do when it's number 1, John? I'll take you out to dinner. That's a date. That's a date. That meant dressing up time, John in his suit and me in drag. He would put the diamond pin on his lapel, a birthday present from me. Then we would end up going to a quiet, dark restaurant where nobody could see us except us. But that was our idea of fun. Mother, help me put this diamond pin on, will you? I hear him saying. So yeah, just how happy they were as a couple, famously on the cover of Rolling Stone. I think it was an Annie Leibovitz photo. And after having gone through some real challenges as a couple, and John with all his own sort of torment and things that he was dealing with as an artist, as a person. It was so great to see the two of them happy again. And of course, at that time, then his life was taken by Mark David Chapman. So Walking on Thin Ice, Yoko Ono. A couple more, the Vile Tones. So from Toronto, one of the homegrown punk bands, used to play a club called Crash and Burn. I was too young. Well, I still regret not trying to get into that club, but I was technically too young to get in, but that didn't stop me in other instances. But lead singer, Dog, he actually had another first name, but I'm not going to mention it because it's kind of got hate related to it, even if it was used in irony or whatever. But Vile Tones, excellent Canadian and Toronto punk band. This is Screamin' Fist, which is a classic of theirs. And Possibilities, also really good, and Rebel, the Vile Tones. And lastly, but not leastly, we got the Sex Pistols Submission on the Virgin label. This is kind of cool because it has Submission on side 1, right? And then on side 2, Nothing. So I couldn't remember this. So basically, when I went to listen to this, it's got all of the track on it, and yet it's actually just crackling nothingness. And I'm going to close out the video with a sample of that. Hopefully the algorithms don't tell me I got to take it down because of copyright infringement. Talk to you soon.